Hey folks, it's Amy from Colorado Mountain Living. I wanted to give you an update on our progress doing the southwest side of the house. So as you can see, we're almost all the way to the top here of the wall, but we're working on the dormer. So I want to show you how we're going to tackle that dormer. We're going to do it mostly all in cedar shingles. So right now, Brian's working on the transition area where the siding stops and the shingles begin. We're also going to be trimming out that window like we did with these two down here. And you can see the details of doing the window trim on the previous siding video. So I'll put a link to that so you can check that one out if you haven't seen it yet. So definitely making some progress here. This side was a lot easier because it was a lot of straight boards and not a lot of cutting around things. So definitely smoother and a lot easier using scaffolding. So let me show you some of the progress and we'll get to that dormer and see how it looks. So getting started on the second side requires some maneuvering of the scaffolding. We gotta get it into place and lower down what we've got. And it's a fun job when you got 3 people. So it definitely goes faster when you got 3 on each of the pump jacks. Whee! And the second order of business is cutting the corner piece that's going to go on the very far edge of the house. Get that up, and then we can start putting the siding boards on. So Brian's cutting here, getting that first board ready, and it seems like it's going to go a lot faster because there's just a lot of less cutting on this side, a lot more long boards. One board up. Another board to go. One of the things you have to remember to do on the bottom boards is to rip off that bottom lip so that the board lies flush on the ledger board. So that's kind of a 2-person job to make sure the cut goes straight. But as straight as a cut as you can get, because these boards are so long, they have a greater tendency to warp and be a little bit more bowed. So Brian's seeing on this board itself that it's quite bowed. So he's going to get a pipe clamp here to press down on it so he can nail it into place. So just one of the things we're finding with the 16-foot boards is that there's a little bit more bowing, there's a little bit more warping, so just got to be wary of that so we don't get off course as we go up the house. Fortunately, this was the only board that was extra bowed because to be able to use the pipe clamp, we needed that ledger board to have that lip to press down on, because it would have been terrible if we had this issue in the middle of the house with nothing to clamp onto. So luckily, the pipe clamp worked on this very first board, and we didn't really have too many problems after that with warping or bowing of long boards. Well, here's my workstation. I got a lot of places where I'm staining boards and priming them on the backs, and then around the corner we got Brian working away at getting the boards up, getting that siding on. And it kind of, as we get into the staining and putting up the boards, we're looking at a little bit of color discrepancy in the stain and thinking maybe a second coat overall might be better to help match the boards. Some of them are coming out a little bit darker, just kind of depends where we are stirring up the stain. So we decided that doing a second coat would be pretty good. And now Brian's prepping up the trim for the windows. So getting those beams ready. And we're going to be cutting those into place. So
Waxing.
Let me tell you what we're going to do today.
Okay? Putting up this board up there.
Putting this board up there. All the way up there.
Then we move scaffolding over. Out of the way.
Yep. Move the scaffolding because look where it is. Right where we need to put the boards at.
Then we're going to move this scaffolding right here. We're going to move this one over 6 inches that way.
Oh, brother. Why do we have to move it? Oh.
Because we need to be able to get all the way up to the dormer
Yeah.
without having to put a ladder on top.
Seems like a lot of work to move it 6 inches.
No, what was a lot of work was putting it all up by myself.
Oh.
That was a lot of work.
How about those windows?
A little bit more assisting on this side of the house because the boards are so long. So in addition to staining and holding boards into place, I actually helped with more of the siding on this side of the house and helping to measure the next board. So made it go a little bit faster with 2 people, even though you don't see me on camera helping all the time. I actually do. And Brian's finishing up the very last siding board on this side before we transition over to the dormer. So kind of one of those happy moments when you feel like you're finally done with another side, but the dormer's going to be a little tricky. There's a few more elements, a lot more measuring coming up. So
one of the tasks we've got to do is move all of the scaffolding. We got to take the third one down and then move the other 2 closer together so they're inside of the dormer so Brian can take it all the way up. So he's taking down the safety rope and we'll be moving the scaffolding next.
I'm pretty sure this is the only fun part of moving scaffolding is cranking the arm crank and riding it down because moving it over and positioning it is what a pain. Ugh.
So now we got the scaffolding into place to be able to tackle that dormer. The next order of business is something Brian's working on.
So, trying to figure out how to put the window trim on. We have another shingle on top of here, and the window trim won't lay flat. So I want to butt it up against it. What we could do is just use the fairing strips and just put those around it. And then mount right on there. Then there's a opportunity for I got the caulk all the way around it. What I'm thinking of doing is using a piece of plywood. Just cut strips the same thickness as the widths of the window trim. Maybe just a 1/4 inch wider. And then I can overlap a piece of shingle like that. You see that?
Oh, yeah.
So I just can trim off the backer
Mm-hmm.
and then the shingle overlap. And then the window trim would be butt up against it.
Mm-hmm.
Like that.
Cool.
Makes sense in my brain.
Okay. Project Dormer. Let's go. So that's just plywood up there around the window?
Yeah.
And then you're going to put the window trim on that.
Yeah.
And then do the shingles around it.
Yeah. And the shingle just butt up against it.
Cool.
Noticed that the house looked really shiny, and we actually did put a second coat of stain on last night. So we tried to blend the colors a little bit more on this side of the house since we had some other boards that weren't really matching. So you can see on the front of the house, we gotta do a second coat there as well to get the color to match. But I think it'll just be more durable. It's a nice darker color and it looks better overall. And Brian's moved himself way up high as he can go on the scaffolding up at the dormer. He's got a couple little safety straps there. He's got himself clipped in with a harness and all that. He's even got a block to use for a little bit of extra height. So it's got everything he needs to kind of be working on that dormer way up high, nice and safe. We are still planning on renting a lift for the other side of the house because the peak is really, really, really high. We'll be able to reach it with this set of scaffolding. So he's already got the window trim in place, and right now he's working on those corners. So he's got one corner up on the dormer, and right now getting that second corner into place. The frustrating thing about working on scaffolding and not having your tools up there is that when something doesn't fit, you got to take it back down the ladder and cut it again. So sometimes the boards required 2 or 3 cuts or more. So that was the time-consuming process of working on the dormer.
First piece of cedar shingles going on.
Intricately cut.
Yeah, cut to fit below the window frame up there.
Had to go, yeah. So had to go in through the fascia because the thicker fascia sticks out here, and then this goes in.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a lot of finagling to get that piece that's so intricately cut into place exactly. Luckily, it's flexible enough where you can kind of bend it and sort of scoot it under the roof there. But, you know, it doesn't take much if it doesn't fit perfectly, you know, you're going to have to pop it back out and trim it. So this piece, I think, took a couple of trips up and down the ladder, but ultimately, you know, you want to have a really good fit. It is pretty helpful, though, to have a little assistant who can come up the ladder and bring your tools that you need. So at least there's that.
Yeah, just the one on the other side now.
Yep.
Tricky corner custom cut angled pieces. Yeah, I see you made some progress yesterday when I wasn't here. One more piece above the window, and then what do you gotta get some ladder extensions up there? Okay, so I guess you're gonna tip it up and then I'm gonna pass it to you.
Yeah, you can help push it up. Be careful, there's some screws sticking out right now.
Whoops.
God, that's heavy.
Looks like 8 more inches, a few more inches. Who knew you'd be using the climbing rope so much?
Yeah. Not a climbing rope anymore.
Yeah.
Dirt and stain and stuff.
The wind caught that one, I think.
Yeah. Dirt around it, right?
There. I see it on this side. It's right before the ice guard.
It's going to be a problem, but
It's just
I'm gonna
round.
try one I know the name of.
Yeah, well, it's just looped around and around and around, so it's a lot of safety, a lot of backups.
Yep, that's awesome.
What kind of knot do you like to tie?
Figure 8 retrace.
Oh. Mine's just called the loop-de-loop special.
Loop-de-loop, yeah.
So you got your strategy here for the last little piece of soffit.
Yeah, I pre-connected them because it's so tight up underneath
Yeah.
that I can't get a nail gun in there.
Way up in that. So it's like a little tray table.
Yeah. So I want to be able to keep it stiff, so I put these up on end like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then hopefully I can work it in underneath. I might have to nail through the fascia board into the ends of these.
Okay.
I got my smaller nailer.
Mm-hmm.
So I could probably get a couple more in there this way.
Yeah. Because it's going all the way up in that crack up there.
There's birds roosting up there.
Yeah. Don't need any birds in our house. Big bird house.
So the soffit trick worked. He was able to get the last piece in using a smaller nailer. And now he's on to the last of the cedar shingles on this side of the dormer, putting up the last few rows there. He's got a little bit of stain left to do on the fascia board, but pretty happy with how the dormers turned out and this entire side of the house.
Well, folks, trying to show you here the sort of the finished look of this side of the house. It's exciting to be thinking about moving on to another side, the third side now, the steep side of the house. I also want to tell you a little bit about what we're going to be doing for the basement area. We're going to be doing a rusted corrugated steel. And so Brian's been looking into that, been looking into pricing and getting measurements. So that might be a project that's coming up in a couple of weeks as well, in addition to finishing the siding on another side of the house. So we're wrapping up this side. I guess the big project next is to move the scaffolding out of the way. That's always the challenge and a big pain, but to take it all down and move it to the other side of the house. But thanks, guys, for tuning in. We're glad to show you the update and how nice it's coming along, like getting those two sides done. You're actually thinking it's looking like finished house now instead of just a lot of house wrap, Tyvek looking paper on it. So anyways, guys, take care. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.